everyone, my name is REDRUP, this is the It's Not a Phase podcast, and on this episode I'm joined by McGough of Being as an Ocean. The band's second album, We Both Wondrously Perish, hit its 10th anniversary this year, so we'll look back on that, his experience joining the band at that time, how that record helped change his life, and how he feels about that record a decade later. Along with Being as an Ocean, Michael also has a solo project called Heart of Gold, so we talk about that, new music on the horizon, and a tour at the end of the year with Dayseeker. Now before we get started, if you enjoy any episode of the podcast at all, then please consider supporting it if you can. You'll be doing me a huge favour, it only takes you a few seconds and it doesn't cost you a thing. You can hit subscribe or follow wherever you're listening to or watching this. You can leave a review or a comment, give the podcast a follow on social media, and if you do want to go the extra mile, there's also a Patreon and there's a web store too. If that sounds good, you can find the links to everything that you need in the description of this episode, or you can head to itsnotaphase.co.uk. And with that, let's get right into my chat with Michael McGough of Being as an Ocean. What's up everybody, thank you for joining me on this episode of It's Not a Phase, where I'm joined by Michael McGough of Being as an Ocean and Heart of Gold. Man, how's it going?
Great, man. Very cool. Very cool. How you doing?
Yeah, all good, all good. Over in, northern of England, which is where you're originally from. So, but now you're chilling out in
Yeah.
California. So,
I am, yeah. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie and be like, oh, it's just okay. It's amazing. I mean, it is great. It's a great life change that I've gone through, but yeah, it has its ups and downs for sure. But yeah, just gonna make the most of it, man. So, but
yeah,
I do miss England a lot. The north of England, I miss it a lot.
yeah,
So.
yeah. That's the thing. Like, obviously, you're gonna have benefits and like pros and cons wherever you are, right? Like,
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it never rains here, and that's one thing I miss about living in like the Northwest, particularly is the rain. Like, without fail, every day you're like, okay, yeah, it's gonna rain. But right now, it's like maybe once every 3 or 4 months, we'll get like one day of just torrential downpour. Like, and I'll just like stand outside in the rain with my dog. He hates it, but I'm just like, you got to embrace this, man. You got to just enjoy it for just 5 minutes or whatever. But
yeah,
yeah, but no, it's great. It's cool.
yeah. Well, I mean, speaking about, you living in California now, that all started because you joined, around 10 years ago, Being as an Ocean.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
also around that time, obviously, is when the second album came out, your first album with the band, How We Both Wondrously Perish.
Yeah.
Wondrously Perish. I'm going to do that a few times during this chat, just so everyone knows.
That's totally fine. I do it. I do it too, man. I
Yeah.
honestly, I said wondrously. Yeah, you're all good.
I'm just gonna very easy. I'm just gonna call it Perish for the rest of the chat. I think that's gonna be easier for us. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect.
So yeah, that's your first record with the band, and I guess, I mean, looking back at the past 10 years, it's an album that's literally changed the course of your life.
Yes. Yeah. It was is a I've kind of touched about this story online a little bit just through posts and stuff, but just for the kind of short version of the backstory, my band that I was in the UK, the Elijah, we had made plans to just do a farewell tour. We had kind of reached the end of what we had wanted to achieve, and we were planning like a big UK European tour as like hey, this is going to be a great opportunity to kind of go out with a bang. And the previous guitarist of Being as an Ocean, Tyler, he sent us an email just out of the blue one day. I think we were like in band practice, and Dan had got an email and was like, "Oh, this guy Tyler from this band Being as an Ocean wants to chat." So we sent him a phone number and we got talking, and he was like, "We know you're doing a farewell tour. We're coming over there around the same time, where we have plans to. Can we have you on our tour as like a last minute, let's, the Being as an Ocean crowds around that time were doing so well. I think
Mm.
I've heard this story a lot, but the first time they played outside of the US in Germany, I think it was a city called Trier or something. It was their first ever show and it had completely sold out. way before they'd even booked flights or something. So we were like, okay, this band are doing pretty good, So yeah, maybe our last tour could be a nice little, at least we'll be playing to packed out rooms
Yeah.
or whatever, and we get to play some places that maybe we'd never hit before. And so we were like, all right, yeah, let's do it. We were listening to the Dear God records as a group, as a band, the Elijah did, and we were like, this is great. This would be a really good opportunity. And so yeah, we booked it, made all the plans, printed all of, we used to print all of our own merch too. So we just did like a whole like week of printing shirts, hoodies, posters, back everything that we wanted to print, we printed. And we just packed up this van and started this tour. And every show, I'd say if it wasn't sold out, it was like less than 5 or 10 people from selling out. And it
Right.
was I'll be very honest, dude. We played what was the venue in Manchester?
It's sound control,
I
I
can't
think.
remember I think it was Sound Control. That place is that God, that I used to love that place. It's gone now as well. And
Yeah.
um yeah, I just remember thinking, God, do we really want to break up? Is this like really the end of the Elijah? And I was just like, the whole drive home from the last show I think the last show was in Frankfurt, Germany. Frankfurt back to Manchester, back to Hope was just like the saddest drive. I don't think anybody spoke to each other. We were just like all real sad and somber and just like, all right, this sucks, I'm gonna go home. And I had literally made plans to sell most of my equipment. I was going to keep a lot of my stuff, like guitars and a couple of guitars, a couple of pedals, but the big stuff, like the amps and the cases and stuff, I was just like, all right, I'm just going to sell it and start working or whatever. Anyway, like a couple of the nights on the tour, I would get up and sing with Being as an Ocean. I'd sing the chorus to the song, The Hardest Part is Forgetting Those You Swore You'd Never Forget. God, I keep that's at least
It's
trying
a
to
long
learn all
title.
that stuff. Yeah, a lot of them are. And I just had so much fun. I was like, God, I personally I could keep doing this, and
Hmm.
um, so it was maybe a week or two after we got home from that tour, and I was just like trying to figure. I think I was on job seekers down at the job center looking for a bit of money every month while I look for full-time work or whatever. And the guys from Being as an Ocean just reached out to me and they were like, look, we had such a good time with you singing this song with us on tour, and the whole vibe was great. Would you be interested in featuring on a new record we're working on? And I was like, yes, absolutely, would love to. However, we were like young broke kids at the time, so we didn't have any money. And they were like,
Yeah.
we'll get you out here. We'll fly you out here. We're actually getting a new drummer soon. This kid Connor Dennis, and I was like, never heard of the guy, but me and him joined at the same time, and so me and him got like very close, started communicating online, and it was just like it was really cool. And they flew me out, and it was well, no, sorry. Initially, when they were in a writing session in the US, I would like Zoom. I don't think it was Zoom then. It was like Skype.
Yeah.
That's it. We would Skype like I would be in on the writing sessions while they were writing new music at this cabin that they rented up in California or whatever. And then eventually they were like, right, we're going to fly you out to Atlanta, just sing on 1 or 2 songs, or just like help us write some top lines, some chorus, and that would kind of be it. So I fly out there, I go to the studio, and it's I don't know if you're familiar with Glow in the Dark Studios. It's like a famous studio for like hardcore bands or post-hardcore bands. They did Define the Great Line by Under Oath,
Yeah. I think there's
Lost in the
some.
Sound of Separation.
I think some Chariot albums were done there as well, weren't they?
Yes, yeah. Well, funny story. Josh from the Chariot, Josh Scogin, became very like he was in the studio the whole time I was there. And
Oh,
I was like a Chariot, like I was so obsessed with the Chariot. And just him being there, and he would like the first interaction he had with me is like he came up to me and he had a can of Coke, and he just opened it and he went, oh, nothing like a classic Coca-Cola, right? And he just handed me this Coke, and I'm like, oh fuck, like the coolest guy in the world just handed me a Coke. Of course I'm gonna drink it with him. And yeah, he was just around in the studio while we were writing, and we became close friends. We'd order food together, we'd like play board games together. And anyway, like kind of back to Being as an Ocean stuff. I initially was only supposed to sing on one song, and it was the one with the French title, L'Exquisite Douleur. So I went in and I did like a bunch of different ideas I had, because on the plane ride over, they sent me the song and they gave me the lyrics, and I had like some ideas, and eventually got in the vocal booth. We spent maybe half a day just like trying to write and rewrite and record and track and harmonize and all this stuff. And eventually we got it. And the producer, Matt, at the time was like, that's cool. We love what you did. The guy, the guys are kind of struggling with writing some top line stuff on another couple songs. Could you stick around and just help them? And I was like, yeah, but it's I'm not in the band, but I'm doing all this stuff, and I love doing that stuff. I will, I was trying to just be as helpful as I could, and
Yeah.
I was really loving what the stuff they were writing. So we kind of sat down, me and Tyler, with some guitars, and we would like rewrite and restructure some of the songs and choruses and this and that, whatever. And then it just like, I think one night, we were sat around the table. We ordered like a bunch of food, and there was this like place across the street that sold like these massive Philly cheesesteak sandwiches, and we all ordered them, and we were just had, and the room stunk so bad, I remember. But we ordered all this food, and we sat down, and me and Connor had, we were, really, really good close friends at this time, and because we were the new kids, well, no, I technically wasn't with the band yet, but, and yeah, it just come up like, would you be interested in kind of, they didn't use the word joining at the time. I think it was more of like filling in on
Right.
these tours for the next year. And I think I was like so excited. I was like, yeah, this is, I'd love to just, let me know all the details and we'll work it out. And the more we talked about it for a couple days, it was more like, actually, no, we need a new guitarist. And if, a lot of these songs now have singing on them,
Yeah.
and Joel does all the screaming, but we need somebody to like take up on the singing. Would you be interested in being a clean singer and guitarist? I was like, yeah, this is kind of like, it felt like a full circle moment, because when the Elijah tour ended, and I was just like so like not miserable, but just so bummed, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm done now, but I'm still so young and I still want to do all this stuff. And now this band, they kind of dangling a carrot in front of me. It's like, I'm going to jump at any opportunity I can. So I did, and I said, yeah, absolutely, I'll join. And the first show we played was this kid, Nico, um, somebody I had met just at the studio. He was like, "Yeah, do you want to play in my basement tonight or tomorrow night, whatever?" And it was kind of like my opportunity to like play old Being as an Ocean songs, work on some new Being as an Ocean songs, and like be in the live environment with them. So
Yeah.
yeah, we played this kid's basement, and it was great. And then the first tour I did was with August Burns Red. It was 2 weeks across the UK with August Burns Red and 100th, and that was February 2020. 2014. So yeah, man, that was the long. I said the short version, but that was like the long-winded version of everything that kind of went down.
Yeah.
And yeah, like they say, the rest is history. I joined, and it was insane, because the Elijah, we would fight tooth and nail to go on tour. We would be like, what tours can we do? Where can we go? We got, we're not getting any offers. We're not getting this. We got to like, we're calling venues in like Turin in Italy, and like, hey, can we play a show in, this. And we'd have like some good tours towards the end of the career. We went out with Hands Like Houses, went out with Hope Style Last, Life Ruiner. And yeah, we did some really, really fun stuff. And I wasn't ready to give that up. So I was
Yeah.
just like, but the Being as an Ocean stuff felt a bit more like, not more professional, because everything we did was we made as professional as possible. But it was like, oh, I have to sign all these contracts to go on tour. Oh, I have to, we were sharing a bus. I've never been on a tour bus, and all these amazing things. I was just like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I can't say no to that. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's like a fun story I've got, for the kids and grandkids essentially. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that period then between, the Elijah ending and you obviously going over to America to initially pitch in with the Being as an Ocean guys and then eventually join. So were you potentially
Yeah.
then kind of gonna give up music because, obviously you've started a solo project, which we'll talk about more shortly, but you also mentioned that you were doing like t-shirt printing because I think what you guys and Elijah did, which I don't think many bands were doing, and even to now I can't think of many bands doing, you kind of custom printed all of the shirts. So I think what you could do, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but you could go on the
Yeah.
site and then you could choose the color of shirt and then which color each
Yeah.
wanted on the shirt as well, which was cool. I don't think
Yeah.
any other bands were doing that.
No, no. Well, I had this like it was maybe 2010 or 2011. I was miserable at work in my job. I was doing so many different things. I was working in like doing office work. I was working like in as like a cleaner in restaurants and stuff. I was just doing all this different stuff. And I loved creating and being, like having something to work on, like designing and crafting something. And I remember just like we were paying a fortune for merch for the Elijah stuff. And I was like, the amount that we're going to spend in 6 months on merch or a year on merch, why don't we just buy our own machine or
Mm,
like a printed carousel, spend a month learning how to use it, and we already have like computers where we can do software, like we can do the design side of things. We'll all chip in and get a printer like to print the graphics on for a t-shirt or whatever. So I went to like the Printers Trust, which were very very cool at the time. They kind of like gave me an opportunity to like, it was like 2 weeks intensive like training on starting a business and entrepreneurship and stuff. So I did that, and then they gave me like this really small grant that went towards a machine, and yeah, got a machine, got like a location, and we kind of based it as like the hub for the Elijah. So we would store our music equipment there. We would like print our own merch. We would try all this stuff, and we ended up printing for a lot of bands. We printed for Empire's Fade. We printed for Counterparts. And I, never heard of these bands until the emails came through, and I was like, that's how I like even like discovered a lot of the bands that I love today.
right.
I'd heard the name Counterparts in 2011, but I knew they hit me up. So like, we need merch. We got a tour in Europe, and we don't want to fly with shirts. So can you do it? So that type, and then now I'm like close friends with those guys from the last sort of 10, 12 years of printing their stuff, and now touring and whatever. But um, yeah, we did this. The Elijah did this cool thing where we had like two or three designs, and then we had like a catalog full of shirt colors, because we were way in over our heads, right? But we went to all like the trade shows for like printing and designing and stuff, and we were just
Right.
like, we have no fucking idea what we're doing, but we know that there are 150 different shirt colors and hoodie colors that we could print the designs on. So let's just like, make this site for like a week long, and it's like pick your design, pick your hoodie or t-shirt, whatever, and then pick the color of each. And yeah, that was a really cool thing. To be able to do that. But we were only able to do that because we were doing the printing ourselves. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, but it was, yeah, man, it was fun. That was a good time. And then when I became a member of Being as an Ocean, it was like maybe 3 months of being in Being as an Ocean. So probably up until like summertime 2014, I was so busy. I was touring. If I wasn't touring, we were in a studio or we were in writing sessions. And this is all a brand new world to me. So I'm like, I have no time for my screen print and stuff. So I sold that entire business to the guy in the building next to me who was doing like, I don't know, like car vinyl wraps or something. And he was like, I want to do screen printing too. So I was like, hey, man, buy it off me and it's yours. And yeah, I used that money to get a ticket out to San Diego, where I am now, and we were like, yeah, we were just in writing sessions and studios and doing videos and all these cool things. And yeah, man, it's been a fucking cool journey, man.
Mm.
when I think about it all.
Different lifetime ago, really.
Yeah. It was, yeah. Because I'm in my 30s now, and that was that. When I say, oh, I was in my 20s, it feels like only so not that long ago at all. But so much in the last 10 years. We did two Warped Tours. We did Southeast Asia. We did Australia like 5 or 6 times. We've done like a full Canadian tour. We toured with like some of the biggest bands like personally to me that I've looked up to for years and years and years, like like Silverstein. Who else? God, I had a list of them, and my name's just gone. But no, some of the bands that we did on Warped Tour as well. We Paris, the band Pivris.
Reverse, yeah.
Been a huge fan of them forever, and they were on the stage next to us at Warped Tour the whole summer, and yeah, man, it's been a ride for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you say obviously you went to the studio where they were working on the album, so Glow in the Dark Studios, which is a, like you say, prestigious record studio where lots of
Yes.
iconic albums have been made. So that must have been an experience in itself, just to be in those
Oh yeah,
rooms.
yeah. Because you walk in, and the first thing you see when you get through like the kind of receptionist area, there's an old piano, and a lot of like backing piano was used from that exact piano was used on the As Cities Burn records, which are some of my
Hmm.
favorite records in the entire world. The Chariot stuff, Under Oath stuff, and then you walk down this hallway, and there's Studio A, Studio B, and I recognize these studios from like YouTube videos from like years previous where
Hmm.
Define the Great Line, like studio footage of Define the Great Line. I'm stood in the room with that iconic drum sound that Aaron Gillespie and Matt Goldman, the producer, completely crafted from scratch in this room that used to be like, I think it used to be part of a church or something. So the room is so well treated to for drums, and I'm just stood there, just looking at all this equipment, like, oh my god, that's where the guitar, that amp is where the guitar tone for the intro to Find the Great Line came from, and you know, these are the microphones that and these are albums that shaped me as a musician. So I was just like a little kid giggling in a fucking sweet shop for like at least half the time I was there, man. It was intense. It was so good.
Yeah,
But yeah, we I think being in an environment helps kind of navigate where you want to place your own art and your own creation. So I think I talk about this. I've had this conversation a lot with friends recently. Like, if I'm trying to write music by myself at home, I have a little studio behind me over here. Just like it's just like a desk with all my like things for recording. I'll get maybe an hour in, and I'm just like, God, I feel burnt out. Like I'm getting frustrated. I'm doing this and that. But if I pick up my studio and I go to a different location,
hmm.
or if I go to a coffee shop and I just have my headphones on and a little keyboard, so I can hear what's going on. That environment helps me, come up with, new avenues of ways to feel inspired. And I think that definitely was so present being at Glow in the Dark Studios because not only was it home to so many amazing albums, so many amazing things in those walls of that studio, but it just compelled you to be part of that. I would love an album that I've worked on to be on the wall next to, Come Now Sleep by As Cities Burn and
Yeah,
Define the Great Line. I would love an album that my name is on the back of it. It doesn't even have to say my name on the front or anything like that, and it doesn't have to be present, but I would know that my name is on this plaque or this record next to these great records because they were done here. And I think being in that room, you just feel this energy that like helps. And we've been to multiple studios since then, and you still do get those types of feelings and vibes and energy from literally, people go to those places just to be creative and to really express themselves musically, lyrically, in any artistic outlet that they can. and I think that helps a lot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So when you got there, was a lot of the album already kind of written up and done? Then you just kind of added these vocal parts. Like how much once you got there, how much did your contributions kind of seep into the record?
A lot of it musically was there. A lot of it. I remember specifically hearing there were some songs where I don't know if I still have them, but the version of the song, if you heard the version I have, you would hear it and be like, I think that's this song. And then you hear the finished product and you're like, oh yeah, I think I could see where you've taken that version and then changed it into this version. So there were a lot of kind of like rewrites on things. But I didn't want to, I didn't want to be the guy who's like, okay, you've brought me into the band, so now I'm gonna fucking change everything or whatever.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, no, I was a fan of the band already, and what I heard was great. I did throw in some suggestions for a lot of stuff, um, because I think it felt really good because like I felt like they respected my opinion enough, and Matt, the producer, respected my opinion enough to be like, "Oh, this is what I would do in this part of the song." Like you know, scrap verse two, put this in there, and maybe get the vocals to go higher in an octave for this part and whatever. And it was all like trial and error. We do a lot of different things, and a lot of what I kind of contributed did make it to the record. A lot of it was just like an idea that we tried and we weren't feeling it, so we moved on. But I'd say like a lot of that record was pre-written musically before I got there, and yeah, I have videos on my hard drive of Connor in the big room just with playing the drums,
Hmm.
and then I hear the song that it became, and it brings back all those memories of just like sitting there with like pen and paper and a guitar and looking at all these pedals and all this stuff. And yeah, man, it's cool. Yeah. But yeah, sorry, long way of saying yes. Basically, the majority of the record, I guess, was almost there.
Yeah. Well, I guess I was like the new person, and I guess from what you've explained, you kind of as the album was being made, so was your position in the band. So I guess you're always going to be kind of
Yes.
cautious of you don't want to kind of meddle in what they've made too much. You'll obviously want to make
Yeah.
contributions, but you're like, I'm the new
It,
guy. I don't want to step on anyone's toes here.
yeah. Exactly. Because I didn't want them to see me as the guy who's like, "Hey, we've given you this opportunity, but you know, why are you being so like vocal about things? Why, are you telling us that what we're doing so far is wrong or this, that, whatever?" And I'm like, no, no, yeah, like you said, I am the new guy. So yeah, I didn't want them to think like, oh, you've hired me, so now I'm gonna kind of come in and tell you how to redo everything. I would never ever want to do that. So I just kind of was like, I listened to everything they had. I listened to like there was like a folder they sent me with like 50 or 60 demos before we decided on what was going to be on How We Both Wondrously Perish. And I think, yeah, we picked the right songs to be on that record. So yeah, there was like a ton of things that I would always say what I wanted to say, but I wouldn't like be like, hey, you need to change this. I would be like, hey, what do you think if we did this instead of this? And they'd try it. They'd be gracious enough to like try it. And, if they like it, great, keep it. If they don't, cool, fine.
Yeah.
I at least was able to express that. So yeah, they were very open about that type of stuff.
Yeah. So then obviously you're gradually being placed into like a full-time position in the band. And
Yeah.
you lived in the UK, the rest of the band doesn't live in the UK. At what point then do you
Yeah.
think, right, okay, now I have to move to the US because that just makes the most logistical sense? And then you've obviously got the whole having to get I don't even know what the process is like. Like you have to get a working visa to begin with, and then you eventually become a resident. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a whole. I promise I'll try and keep this as the short version. But basically, yeah, like you said, I the first tour was UK, Europe, August Burns Red, and that was 2.5 weeks long. The next tour was 100th Counterparts and Polar in Europe and the UK, and that was straight. I think that was straight after. I think because we were on tour with August Madrid with 100th, so us and 100th, I think we kind of just skipped over onto another tour. Um, and it wasn't until later in that year that we did the US and Canada for the first time. And our manager at the time, uh, Sean, um, great guy. He made me very comfortable with the whole process. So he was like, hey, I'm going to help you with the whole thing because you need work visas, you need this, you need that. And we were like not dumb to it, but I didn't really fully understand the grasp of getting a work visa. So I did all the application forms, I sent everything off. They sent me a number which was like, you've been approved for a work visa. So I had this number. I'm like, cool, I'm going to book a flight. So we're about to go out. I think it was us and Census Fail. We're doing a tour and for the Fallen Dreams, I think. And I get all the way to JFK Airport in New York, and they're like, "This isn't a visa." And I'm like, "Okay, so what do I do? This says approved." And he's like, "Yeah, but did you go to the embassy in London?" I said, "No." And he's like, "Right, yeah, so you're not allowed in the country, basically."
Oh no.
But I can see where you've gone wrong. So we're not gonna like it's not gonna be a big deal. All you have to do is just fly back to England. We're not gonna blacklist you. We're not gonna put your name on a list or anything like that. Because that's the rumor at the time was if you fly to play shows and work without a visa, you're gonna get blacklisted and
Right.
you no fly list for like 5 or 10 years or something. And he was very cool about it. The guy was great about it. He was just like, look, just go home. So I'm like at the airport, just like calling beings. I'm in New York, guys in California. I'm calling. I'm just like, yo, I'm in New York, but they're not letting me leave the airport. The customs guy has basically said what I did was wrong, and Sean, the manager, is like having the worst day of his life trying to figure it out for me. And we're just like, look, fly back to England, and yeah, sadly, just you're gonna have to miss this tour. So I did. I went all the way back to England. I booked an embassy appointment. By the time I got the embassy appointment, they sent me my passport back with my picture in it for the work visa. The tour had already ended at that point, so I was like, at least I'm good now for a year. But
Yeah.
luckily, yeah, we had like a bunch of tours coming up like after that, in the US and Canada, and we had like studio time. We were about to start work on the self-titled record. So yeah, it kind of worked out. I was so sad not to do that tour, but it kind of worked out in itself. So but yeah, the whole process was a nightmare. And then I came out here and I was living at Tyler's house for a while with him, and Connor was living there too. And that's where our kind of home base would be, and we'd rehearse and write here in San Diego, and then go to Atlanta to do the record with Matt again. So Atlanta was like our second home. We even have merch that says born in San Diego, raised in Atlanta or something like
Oh,
that. And it's really cool. It's yeah, because Atlanta is like it's one of my favorite cities on earth, even just as not even anything to do with music. It's just such a great city. It's great music scene, great, just so vibrant as a city, and that holds a lot of good memories for me. So yeah, that was pretty much it. The process was a nightmare, but it is worth it. It was worth it in the end. And I had to do that every year.
oh really?
I'd have a visa, and it would expire in this time, and about 2 to 3 months before it would expire. So I get about 9 months use before it would expire. I'd have to go back to the embassy and be like, hey, I need a new one. Here's a list of everything I'm doing this year, and I'd have to write down all the tours, all the fucking studio time. You'd even have to write down, oh, I'm doing a photo shoot in Los Angeles,
Oh really?
and I need to be in the US for that, obviously. So I have to write down the date that we're doing a photo shoot, and then 2 days after that we're doing a video shoot, and that's going to be 3 days long. So you have to write every single thing down, including tour dates and all that stuff. So um, yeah, it was a process. But luckily now, so I did 1 year visas for about 5 years,
Mm.
and then the pandemic happened, which really sucked. That really just like that threw a spanner in the works for us. Uh, and then once things slowly started to come back around, I applied for a 3-year visa. I'd saved up enough from like from just working and from tours and stuff. And the 3 year, it was a lot of money, but yeah, I've got a 3-year visa, and during that time, I moved here. Me and my wife live here now. I met my wife here in San Diego. We got married and we have a place here. So we're in the middle of our green card process right now.
Right. Okay.
So I should have that pretty soon, but I'm still on a 3-year work visa as of right now.
Yeah.
And I still the same process. It's a little more intense because it's 3 years. So I had to do like 2 embassy appointments down in London. Yeah, send off amount like 3 years worth of what I'm doing in the US, and how am I supposed to know what I'm doing in 3 years from now? So yeah, but it's worth it in the end.
Yeah.
And yeah, I definitely always like don't ever try and risk it. It's not worth it because you could ruin a lot of big opportunities and chances if I was to just like try and come in as like on a tourist visa or whatever.
Yeah.
So
That's so great. I would have thought like maybe a year or two you'd have to have a work visa, and then at some point within those 2 years you'd have the chance to, because all your work's in the US pretty much. Like a
pretty
big chunk
much,
of your work
yeah,
is like
yeah.
you would have thought like, oh well, let's just make you a US resident. It just makes sense, but that's not the case.
Yeah, yeah. No, well, it would have been the case if the pandemic didn't like completely put the brakes on everything. Like I was here all the time, and then the pandemic started, and they started to close the borders.
Right.
And while I was out here, I got an email from the Homeland Security, which it was scary getting, but they were just like basically, we are closing the borders. If your visa expires while our borders are closed, you like long story short, you can't be here during the pandemic if you're on an expired visa because you're staying here basically illegally then.
Wow.
Um,
But
so
you wouldn't know how long the pandemic's
yeah,
lasting for. So how would you know if it expired?
exactly. So they were just like, yeah, just your best to go home. You just like just go. And when the borders reopen, you'll get an email to say when it's safe to book a new flight, blah blah blah. Anyway, during that time while I was back in England, my visa expired, and I wasn't allowed to apply for an extension or an update or a new one because they were just like, well, nobody's traveling right now. So if we give you a visa and the pandemic lasts for a year, you've wasted a year because you're going to
Yeah.
have a year-long visa, but you're not allowed to travel. So why would you do that? Basically,
Mm.
I was like, yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, when I heard it was the like sort of mid November, no, sorry, midsummer 2021, they were like, it's slowly starting to, die down, and we expected things to open around like December 2021. So I immediately applied for my visa, and luckily got very close with, I got like, kind of first in on the embassy, and I was just like, I want the 3-year one. I got an immigration lawyer who's going to help me with the whole process. I just need the 3-year one because my like then fiance but now wife was out here, and we were trying, she was allowed to visit me in England, but I wasn't allowed to visit her, which was crazy.
Yeah.
I was just like, I want the 3-year one, so let's just do it. Let's just get the 3-year one. And like, so I spent like 3 days in London because I had a meeting. I had to do my embassy appointment like 5 a.m. to do the initial meeting one day, and then the next day it was at like 8 a.m. To do like the fingerprints and the biometric stuff, whatever. So I had to do all of that in like 3 days out in London, and then yeah, God, man, it's a shame to say the amount of money I spent, which I just like was losing money like so fast because there was like the pandemic and nobody's earning really.
Yeah.
And with our line of work, sadly, you don't really get like, you know, work from home money or anything like that because like
Yeah.
touring is our income.
Yeah.
So I paid to fast track it, and I got my passport back. I remember it was like November 27th, 28th of 2021, and I booked a flight for like the following week, and I had like 8 suitcases, and I was just like, right, if I have a 3 year visa, I'm taking 8 suitcases, I'm taking all my guitars, taking all my stuff from England, and I'm just gonna like get a storage unit in San Diego, and I'm just gonna put it all in there and just figure it out.
Yeah.
And at the time, me and my wife were like, we'd found this apartment we're in, and she'd already moved in like a couple of weeks prior, so I had somewhere to go, which is now our home basically. So yeah, it kind of all worked out that way. So I was able to make it work. You know, the pandemic was so difficult. And I know a lot of people experienced so many different things during the pandemic, but man, it was so tough. And even people I see online, I'm not, it just talking about how like, yeah, we just got through it and it happened. Dude, it like took a number on me for sure.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure how it was for you, but it was our line of work, especially within like the entertainment industry, I guess. You know, it's a lot of people are like rely on television and music and stuff to kind of get through things like that. But dude, I just like lost it. I like lost my mind at one point. I was like,
Yeah.
I was going on like 15-mile walks like some days, just like
Wow. A
nothing
long
to do. I'm
walk.
just
Yeah.
just like listening to like the same 5 songs on loop, just like on long walks, just for what? For nothing. I like had a personal trainer and I lost like 30 pounds in weight, and then I just like put it all back on because I just like what the fuck else am I gonna do, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it was tough, but we got through it.
Yeah.
And it's a I'm grateful it happened because who knows how those 3 years, those two years would have been otherwise.
Yeah.
But with being as an ocean stuff, during that pandemic, we lost 2 members of the band, Tyler and Ralph stepped away from the band, which, that's everything is cool there. We're all, we all have remained good friends, and everything's great. But that was tough too, because we were
Yeah.
all in different parts of the world. I was stuck in England. Tyler was I think he was in France at the time, and Joel and Ralph were here in San Diego, and it was just a lot to process, and we were trying to figure out what our plans are for when the pandemic ends. And we had this 10-year Dear God tour planned, and
Yeah.
and then it was like, well, we've lost 2 original members, so what are Joel and I going to do, and how do we rehearse, because we're going to have to hire not only a drummer but also another guitarist and a bass player. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it was tough, but we got through it, and I'm stoked for how we overcame that stuff for sure.
Yeah. You made it through, man. And yeah, congrats. Um, well, you mentioned
Oh yeah.
before, that the self-titled album, it seemed that that came around really quickly after the Perish. So, like, was that because you were just all like so inspired and had this energy off the back of that album to go back into the studio and do this follow-up?
Yeah, yeah. I remember a lot of the lyrical content of the self-titled records came from writing sessions during the Wondrously Perish
Right.
era, like that cycle. We'd be in the studio, and like I was saying, there was a folder of like stacks of demos of new ideas, and I brought a bunch of stuff to the table, and we would just like play them all through the amazing sound system they had, so we could kind of hear where they could potentially go, what direction they could possibly go in. And I remember a lot of there's one song, Forgetting is Forgiving the Eye, I believe it's called, on the self-titled record, which is my favorite song on that record. That I remember hearing those initial ideas to that song during the Wondrous Perish cycle. And I remember thinking, God, I hope this makes it on the record. And it didn't make it on Wondrously. So because it was nowhere near finished, and I feel like it had so much more breathing room to do some really cool stuff. So real quickly after we Wondrously Perish came out, we did like I think it was like a 6 or 9 month touring cycle where we would like just be on the road promoting this new record and playing these shows, whatever. And like kind of rebuilding a fan base now that we have a new member, like with singing. Which I will say at this point, dude, there was a lot of people who did not like me joining Being
Oh,
as an
really?
Ocean. Like, yeah, dude, I wish I still had like the emails and screenshots and whatever, but there was a lot of people just like, yo, you've ruined perfectly fine hardcore band, fuck you. And I was like, wow, okay, like, like please don't say you're joining. Please just say you're featuring on one song. It's like, okay, yeah, sorry, like, but that's like that was just like a blip compared to all the amazing response.
Yeah.
And I posted, it was like last month. I posted the 10-year anniversary of Wondrously Perish online, just expecting maybe a handful of people to be like, yeah, cool. But the response from people was like, I was at work when I was sat in the car park at work, and I was just about to walk in, and I posted it, and then by the time it got to like lunchtime that day, I was just like looking at my phone. I was just like, dude, I want to cry how nice people are about that record, because you're more prone to remember the negative things people say than you are, the good things.
Yeah.
And I remember specifically people being like kind of shitty and kind of mean about it, and saying, I was like, God, have I just ruined opportunities for Being as an Ocean to tour with hardcore bands now because there's a singer? And no, honestly, in fact, I feel, I'm confident to say enough to say like some of the opportunities we got, I wonder if like not there's no modesty here at all, but I genuinely feel like would they have still gotten the same opportunities if I hadn't joined that they did? We did a world tour with Stick to Your Guns, like a predominantly hardcore band. They have
Yeah.
like the chanting, singing, like choruses, but they're not a singing band. They're just straight hardcore band. So would that have still happened if I had or hadn't joined? Or I always just like think of those things that I was more prone to like the negative things people were saying. But yeah, I was so happy with the reaction that people gave to to that to that post. It made me well up. It made me really tear up. I was just like, man, if I could relive any point in my life musically in my career, it would be the first year and a half, 2 years of joining Being as an Ocean,
Mm.
because that's when things slowly started to really make sense. Where I was like, God, this is like, you're telling me I can do this full time? That's
Yeah.
so fucking cool. Um, so yeah, yeah, nice
Well,
thing to hold on to, I guess.
fuck the haters, man. Like, as much as I love Dear God, you joined the band, elevated it to the next level. So,
Oh man, honestly, I'm still so like I feel so like just struck when people say that, because I like I said, man, I held on to the negative stuff for it so much to the point where I was like, God, I think I'm like, am I about to ruin this band? People are telling me I am, but am I actually about to ruin this band? It kind of made me kind of stop seeing the nice stuff people were saying. People would be like, yeah, I love the Elijah. I think you're gonna do this. I think it's gonna be great. This, that, whatever. And so I was very like just unsure for a while. So when like you say that, man, it genuinely like 100% fills my heart with like this joy that I'm like, okay, thank God, because it does mean a lot. Even 10 years later, I'm like, God, like 5 records later, I'm like,
mm.
so yeah,
Well, how do you feel
thank you,
about
man.
the album 10 years later now? Like, do you think it's stood the test of time? Do you listen to it at all now, 10 years down the line?
It's funny. I have it on my I like occasionally on Spotify, I'll just like hit play on it, where I'll just like be driving, a lot of the places that I need to go to, like to work or to studios or to wherever around here, there are roughly the right amount of time for me to listen to the whole record. So I'd say at least like unless it comes on shuffle on random and I hear like one or two songs
Hmm.
to listen to the whole. I'll listen to it maybe once a month where I'm like, I'm just gonna listen front to back, and then the next day I'll listen to self-titled, and then the next day I'll do Waiting for Morning to Come and the singles, and then Proxy, and then now the new records. I just kind of like revisiting them
Hmm.
every so often, not too much to the point where I'm like, okay, I don't want to hear it for a while, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm so proud of it, you know, and I feel like anybody who has created something and they're proud of what they've created, there is absolutely no shame in saying, you know, it's one of my favorite records, and I have no shame in saying that one of my favorite records is something that I was a part of, and I feel every artist will do that. Otherwise, like, you know, why did they do it? You know, unless you wouldn't listen to it yourself. You know, so I don't know if it's the cool thing to say, like, yo, I you know, I don't need to listen to it. I made it kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I genuinely feel so good about our back catalog where I'm like stoked enough to be like, yeah, I can listen to this
Yeah.
every so often and be, you know, I'm taking back to the studio, I'm taking back to the tours, I'm taking back to the first time we played um, the Poets Cry for More live
Mm.
and watching the crowd's reaction because they heard the song online, but they hadn't seen it live yet. So playing it live for the first time and having a room full of people sing along to it, one of the best feelings in the world. And I'm just like, all right, this is sick.
Yeah. Well, some people who are fans of Being as an Ocean may not know that you've got a solo project called Heart of Gold. Um,
Yes.
and that's kind of like more pop and R&B focused. I guess that properly started in like 2016. That's when like the first stuff started coming out, I think. But I came across
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
old solo track of yours from 2011 called We Live
Uh,
Trying. So the solo thing's been
yeah.
like in the works for a long time, then, hasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, anybody, this is so funny. Like, because anybody who is a singer in a band, like a hardcore band or a post-hardcore punk, whatever, there'll be a guy who's like always compared to somebody else. You know, I always got poor man's Dallas Green a lot because I was like the singer, but in like a hardcore, post-hardcore band with the Elijah being as an ocean, whatever. And yeah, yeah, I got that a lot. I got like, oh, poor man's Dallas Green. And I was big into City and Color. I mean, who wasn't? And
Yeah.
I was big into folk music. I was big into like bands like Isley and um Iron and Wine. I was big into all these like cool acoustic folk bands. And I was just like, I want to do that, but I don't want to give people the opportunity to be like, oh, he's trying to do Dallas Green, City and Color, whatever. But I really wanted to do it. So I just like, yeah, I had like originally planned to do some more like acousticy stuff because I was like, I wasn't really, I didn't know how to like produce music or anything. So I was just like, okay, I know how to like, I can sit with an acoustic and try and write something.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just remember thinking, okay, you know, this is cool. Like, you know, I like this stuff. It's not gonna be in my hardcore bands. It's not gonna be like in, it's not gonna be like a heavy song that I'm gonna introduce to the band to be like, let's make this heavy or whatever. It's just gonna be for me. So
Yeah.
that song in particular, We Live Trying, God, it was just YouTube and YouTube only, I think. And it wasn't even me who uploaded it. Somebody uploaded it on my behalf because I think it was on MySpace or Pure Volume or something at the time.
Right.
And I just kind of forgot about it. And then yeah, I was really growing up, I was really into like pop music and R&B and a lot of UK like garage music, I guess. Like yeah, like this band Eternal. And if you remember Eternal,
Mm,
there was
yeah.
three female singers. So the most beautiful harmonies I've ever heard in my life. Lisa Stansfield. So my mum introduced me a lot to like pop, the pop world, I guess. And I was so drawn to vocals as like the instrument, the main thing. Like there was some artists, I remember it being in the car growing up thinking, there's no music, it's just vocals, and it's just so beautiful. And that's what made me want to be a singer in the first place. And I think I was in the school choir for like, I don't know, like a month before I like hated it. Um, yeah, and then eventually I just got really into like music production when I kind of was around the studios with the early inception of Being as an Ocean. I just kind of learned how to write with a keyboard as well as, guitars and stuff. And yeah, I just started writing like this pop music where I was like, okay, I want the vocal to be the driving force. And
Yeah.
I don't think this can make me, I don't think anyone can compare this to like the City and Color stuff now. So hopefully I'll get out of that kind of bracket. Um, yeah, and it just became like this pop music. And I was, the era in which I grew up, like the early to mid 90s, that music at the time was such a big thing for me. I loved that stuff so much. So I wanted to kind of reintroduce that kind of influence in my writing style. And yeah, it gets compared a lot to like the 1975 are just like they're doing it so well right now. They're like just the kings of that kind of new wave. It's indie pop, alt pop, whatever. And it does get lumped in with that, and that's fine. I love that because I think they're a great band. I think they're a
Mm.
great influence, and but there's yeah, that like now I'm introduced into that world. It opened up a lot more influence for me, and yeah, I'm just having like so much fun writing it because I get to like experiment with new sounds and new ideas and new stuff, which wouldn't ever make it into a Being as an Ocean studio session,
Yeah.
like I think it would be a very rare occasion that I would have like this beautiful 80s sounding keyboard and I'd be like, oh, this could be a Being as an Ocean song. Like
Yeah.
that's very rare. It's like on the new record, Death Can Wait, that did happen a couple times where yeah, I would have like this real nice like keyboard patch on my software and I'd like write this thing and be like, okay, that's gonna be the lead in a Being as an Ocean song. And but yeah, like I said, it's very rare. So having that to write for me and only for me was like such a good feeling. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's cool that it's people are slowly starting to like hear it and pick up on it because that's like my ultimate like thing, that's my big outlet where I just do it by myself.
Right.
So it's yeah, it's a way to just be as expressive as I can because a lot of Being as an Ocean stuff I'm singing another person's lyrics, which is absolutely fine. I love that. I love that the stuff that Joel writes is very resounding to me and it means a lot to me. So I have no problem doing that. But with Heart of Gold, it's like, okay, this is me and only me, and I'm content with that. So
Yeah. Well, how are you finding kind of going into those different audiences, like not these hardcore audiences or post-hardcore kind of fans and stuff? You're going into this other world of like pop and, pop rock kind of area.
I'll be honest, Matt. It's been interesting because the few tours that I have done with Heart of Gold, the first kind of I guess big one was with Hundredth when they had just changed their sound. They
Right.
went to this more kind of like new wave dream pop world where I I loved Old Hundredth so much. We toured with them enough for me to just be. I just fell in love with their music and they're great people and this that. And then they changed their sound to something that I loved like personally before I knew that anyone knew they were going to do it. So that change for me was incredible, and I was just like, yeah, I'd love to play some shows with them. And so we did. We got this tour. We did. It was like 2 weeks around the UK or 10 days in the UK. We did like major cities, and it was so cool because you could tell there were some of the OG hardcore kids or whatever, like the OG hundredth fans who were there. And I remember this one guy in Glasgow was like, "You were in Being as an Ocean, right?" I was like, "No, I still am, but I'm playing pop music with hundredth." And he's like, "Yeah, I saw you and hundredth in like Manchester like 8 years ago or whatever." I was like, that's sick. Yeah, we're both doing very different things now. Being as an Ocean's still there, don't worry, but um yeah, and then the next tour was with Le Brock, which are like 80s synthwave, kind of like hair metal, but dude, they are so good. Le Brock are just like one of the coolest bands right now. They need to be so much bigger than they are. That was interesting because that was a crowd that I would never have been put in front of in any other opportunity. And yeah, the next tour we're doing is Dayseeker, which is crazy because they are like a new metal hardcore band or post-hardcore, whatever, but they have a lot of that kind of like synth, like kind of ethereal, like dreamy influence in their sounds with like synths and keyboards and guitars and Rory's vocals and this and that. So it's going to be an amazing opportunity because I feel like if we were to go out with a package that made some kind of sense, it would be a band like Dayseeker.
Yeah.
So that's going to be an amazing opportunity. They're taking a big chance taking us. I get that because we're, Heart of Gold is still relatively very, very small. Um, and it's definitely an opportunity that we will not take for granted because it's going to be um, just it's gonna be crazy. I've never, playing those. Some of the rooms on that tour are ones that you wouldn't even find Being as an Ocean in. It's like it's gonna be a big deal, and we are, very very excited for it. Absolutely. But yeah, man, it's I'm having so much fun with it, and there's a great team behind it, and there's like a great label, great manager, great band, a great team of people that are helping bring it to life. And I think while Being as an Ocean, we're kind of in a process right now where we're working on, you know, a lot of personal stuff. And, we're doing some special stuff for the 10-year anniversary of Wondrously Perish, but kind of using this time to focus on another outlet creatively is it's a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
I'm excited for the end of the year when I get to play. I get to go back home for a little bit and to play Manchester, which, like, I guess to kind of clear it up, because a lot of people have asked me, Manchester to me is a hometown because I would spend, like, I basically lived there during the writing process for a lot of what I've ever released. I would, you know, live in little studios and get hotels in Manchester. I live maybe 30-45 minutes away in North Shropshire, but Manchester to me is the hometown. So it's always great to go back, whether it's Being as an Ocean, Heart of Gold, or whatever. And a lot of people ask me, it's like, oh, so you're Manchester. I thought you were from Shropshire. I'm like, no, I technically am, yes, but
Yeah.
the inception of everything I have created musically, every lyric I've written, every like keyboard thing, every idea has started in one of two coffee shops in Manchester, in Northern Quarter in Manchester, which is, that's why to me it's like this is home. This is the birthplace of, I guess, my creative outlet and career essentially. So yeah, I'm so excited to be back for it. So
Yeah. Yeah. Does that mean as well, like, are people going to be looking to like is like an album going to come on the way? What's kind of in the pipeline musically for the Heart of Gold?
so yeah, new single just came out a couple weeks ago. Been the first single that we've done in a couple of years, just because with the Being as an Ocean record and switching labels and all sorts, it's kind of been the right time to just be like, hey, here's the new and improved Heart Gold. Another new single is coming out very, very soon, like way, way sooner than I think we initially planned, which is I'm so excited for. All this week and next week, actually, we have plan where we're doing a lot of content, we're doing a lot of video and all sorts of cool stuff for it. So yes, and then one more single will be out, and then just before the Dayseeker tour at the end of November, the whole EP will be released. Hopefully with enough time for people to kind of get a bit familiar with the song, so it
Yeah.
makes sense on the Dayseeker tour. So yeah, right now the plan is early to mid-November is going to be a new record, new everything. It's a lot of exciting stuff in the pipeline.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, what else have you got planned for both bands for the rest of 2024 that we've not touched on yet?
So we with Heart Gold, it's just the release of new music and yeah, this big tour. We are working on a few things out in the US, but everything is just we've started that conversation. Um, we have with Being as an Ocean, we have some really exciting stuff happening with the 10-year anniversary that we are working on. This week, actually, Joel and I have been kind of hard at work on some really cool stuff in the studio, which all will be revealed. We haven't set a date for any announcement yet, but all will be revealed soon enough. And hopefully people will dig what we do. So we're looking forward to that. And as for touring right now, it's kind of like a bit of a touring break for us right now, just while we kind of navigate some, like I was saying, some personal stuff and kind of wait for the right opportunities to celebrate. Because we released a record in February, the new record came out, and it's done so well, but we haven't had the opportunity to tour it because the only tour we've done on the new record, sadly, Joel wasn't able to make it. So we had some fill-ins on the tour, which it was great. It was a lot of fun. But it wasn't, it was a Being as an Ocean show, which the energy was there and the passion was there and the crowd were there and all sorts. But we're excited to hopefully do something soon with Joel and I and our band and so on. So to kind of celebrate, not only the new record being out this year, Death Can Wait, but also to celebrate, like a nod to Wondrously Perish celebrating 10 years. So yeah, watch this space, I guess, is the best thing. We can see how things go, but we are actively working on some cool stuff.
Awesome. Well, thanks very much, Michael. Really appreciate you taking the time to, share your story.
Zach, my pleasure, man.
Before I let you go,
I love it.
Go on, sorry, I cut you off there.
Oh no, I just say I it's so cool because I get an amazing opportunity to reminisce on these things. And I get like I like to explain stories and to a point where I'm like, God, I hope people aren't getting bored hearing it. But any opportunity I can to just like kind of relive that personally, like I'll watch this back and I'll be like, I'll remember those good times. And it's exciting. So I love the opportunity that you've given me. So thank you very much, Zach. I appreciate you, man.
Of course, man. Of course. Before I let you go, enjoy the rest of your day. Any final words? Anything you want to say or plug that we've not covered yet? I think we've covered pretty much everything. But yeah.
No, of course. No, basically, if you've ever given anything I have ever done a chance, musically, creatively, anything in any way, I cannot even begin to express the gratitude that I feel because it genuinely does. A lot of people say this. It's the most common thing to say, but it genuinely does keep me like grounded and it keeps me in that mindset that, I get this amazing opportunity to be expressive and to create because I think I'd explode if I wasn't able to. So if you've ever given anything I've ever done a chance, thank you so much. And I am so grateful. And I hope you enjoy what is to come, both Being as an Ocean and Heart Gold, which I'm very, very excited about. So
awesome, dude. Yeah, thanks again. I'll let you go. I'm hoping to be at the Manchester Dayseeker tour, so hopefully we can catch up and actually speak.
Yes, we definitely will, man. Yeah, you hit me up and we'll make that happen for sure.
Awesome, dude. Yeah, I'll let you go now. See you later, dude.
Zach, enjoy the rest of your day, man. I'll speak to you soon.
You too, man. See ya. And that's it. Thanks so much for tuning in to It's Not a Phase. If you enjoyed this episode, then don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Leave a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. Follow the podcast on social media. And maybe even join the Patreon or grab some merch from the store. You can find everything that you need at itsnotaphase.co.uk. That's itsnotaphase.co.uk. Thanks again. Hopefully catch you on the next one. And remember, it's not a phase, it's a lifestyle.